Tired of being the same old you? Well, let me show you how you can reinvent yourself in 3 simple steps, Christian Woman Edition. Welcome to my channel. On this channel, we talk all things productivity, self-development, and faith. So today, we're going to be talking about how you can reinvent yourself. I usually like to call it like version 2 of yourself, or maybe you're on like version 3, version 4 of yourself, depending on where you are at in life. But it's always good to kind of take stock of who you are and who you want to be and bridge the gap. And to bridge the gap, you need some steps as to what to do to get to where you want to be. So I'm going to help you out today. So grab a tea, grab a coffee, or your favorite beverage, and let's get into it. One thing that's really important to remember is that you need to do what you say you're going to do. This reinvention of yourself is on the other side of discipline. It's on the other side of actually doing what you say you're going to do. You can never become this better woman, this better person, unless you actually do what you set out to do. So as we're talking about this, please bear that in mind. Reinvention looks different for everybody. So what I want you to do is I want you to actually envision who you want to be. And it's not enough to just ask yourself, who do I want to be? You need to ask yourself some specific questions to actually detail and map out that person. So some of the questions may be, what does she look like? What does she dress like? What kind of jewelry does she wear? How's her hair? What's her makeup like? Does she wear makeup at all? Does she wear heels? Does she wear trainers? Does she wear a mix of things? How does she speak? What's her character like? Is she kind? Is she confident? Is she mysterious? Does she operate in the fruit of the Spirit? How does she make her money? Does she do a 9 to 5? Has she got a business? Does she do a mix of both? How does she spend her money? Does she give to charity? Is she generous? Does she buy a lot of flashy things, or is she more modest? What does she like to do for fun? Is she adventurous, or is she more of a bookworm? What does she do in her spare time? What car does she drive? What's her family setup? What's her mind like? What does she think about? What does she meditate on daily? What's her relationship with God like? Does she go to church? Is she serving? How is she serving? Does she love God? And is her love for God evident in her life, in the way that she treats people? Is she inspiring? Is she motivating? Is she motivated? Is she disciplined? These are all the questions that you should be asking yourself. And you can pause this video right now, get out a piece of pen and paper, or write it out on your phone and answer all of these questions. You can rewind if you need to and answer all of these questions to really map out in detail who is it that you're trying to reinvent yourself into? Who is the woman that you are supposed to be? This better woman that you have in your head, what does she look like on paper? And so what we talk about in the remainder of this video in step 2 and step 3 should match up to the answers in the questions of step 1. So step 2, we're going to split this reinvention into 3 separate categories. How I came up with these categories comes from this very simple truth of the fact that we are spirits. I am a spirit. I live inside of a body and I have a soul. So I am a spirit. I live in a body and I have a soul. And so those are the 3 categories of your reinvention: your spirit, your body, and your soul. So I would say that your spirit is the most important of the 3, because your spirit is the thing that is made after God's image. It's the only part of you that will actually live forever. And it's the bit of you that actually connects to God, your maker, and how, you interact with your spirit, and how like the state of your spirit affects how you treat your body and how you treat your soul. So your spirit, I would say, is most important. So we'll start with that. So the reinvention for the spiritual part of you. First things first, learn who God is. So, there's 2 categories of people. You either don't know God and you're just coming to know him, or you know him, but we need to continue in that. Don't be complacent. One thing that I've learned over the years is that anything that we leave without maintenance will naturally go towards decay. So if you don't work on your relationship with God, it will go towards decay. The same way, if you don't work on like your relationship with your spouse or your mother or your father, it will naturally go towards decay. So don't be complacent. Actually continue working on your relationship with God. Learn who he is. And as you begin to learn the characters of God, you will begin to see the world through a different lens. I know that it's said a lot, but it really is the best way. It's the simplest way. It's the best way. But you literally do this by reading your Bible and praying every day. When you read your Bible, you begin to see who God is and who he has been over the years. And when you pray, it's your opportunity to fellowship with God and really get to know God, and God get to know you. Not that he doesn't know you, you get to have that time of fellowship and that time of communion with him. Sorry to interrupt your video, but can I ask you a very quick favor? Could you give us a like if you're enjoying this video so far? and comment, interact with us. Let us know that you're enjoying it. Let us know your thoughts. And finally, hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss a thing. All these things really help our engagement on this channel, help us to grow, help us to reach other people just like you, and helps us to make the impact that we intended. I'll let you get back to it. And the second thing is to actually learn who you are in God. Again, you get this from the Word of God. He will begin to tell you who you are. And I think it's really, really important to actually know your identity, because how you identify yourself is how you will act, and how you act is how other people will treat you. So if you find that people treat you bad, or if you find that you're making a lot of really bad decisions, usually it trickles down to a problem with identity. The third way to glow up spiritually is to join a church if you haven't already. If you have joined a church already, then are you serving in the church? Are you actively involved in what's going on in the church? So this could be by way of missions, this could be serving on a team, maybe the media team, the ushering team, in whatever way. Because what I find is some people join a church and then they leave and say they didn't really feel connected, but they didn't necessarily take the steps necessary to feel connected. A lot of my community and friends that I, fellowship with now come from church. And I really believe I have a very full and wholesome life as a result of my kind of involvement in the church. And then the final stage of that kind of spiritual reinvention is then finding your purpose. I find that a lot of people jump to this stage first. They want to know their purpose immediately, but they haven't learned who God is. They haven't learned who they are in God, and they haven't joined the church and got involved in the church and started serving in any kind of capacity, but they want to know their purpose. And I feel like for some people, your purpose is very obvious, but for others where it's not so obvious, God might not necessarily reveal that just like that. It's important to be in a community, in a Bible believing community. It's important to know who God is and to know who you are in God, because otherwise your purpose can actually become quite dangerous and can be like a god unto you. But when you're in the safe parameters of knowing who God is, knowing who you are, and you're amongst like the fellowship of other Christians, it's a lot safer to then operate in your giftings and your purpose. So once you've done those first three things, then you will just see that naturally you will begin to find your purpose, and God will begin to reveal it to you, and you'll begin to walk in it. The next stage is physical, and I would say the first stage of the physical kind of glow up, the physical reinvention, is to declutter. It's really difficult to kind of improve if you haven't first decluttered. When there's clutter around physically, it actually affects your mental state as well. It makes you feel overwhelmed for no reason. At least I can speak for myself. That's how I feel, and I know that there's a lot of other people that feel like that. So first of all, declutter. It could be clothes, shoes, makeup, your social media, like who you follow. Declutter that space too. It will make you feel a lot better. Especially with social media as well, where if you don't want to be a certain way anymore, but that's what you're seeing, slowly you're desensitizing yourself to that, and you're being influenced by that without you even knowing. Same with things like clothes, shoes, makeup. If there's a certain look you don't want to go for anymore, if you declutter and get rid of those things, you'll be forced to make room for the new. The second thing with the physical reinvention is your body. So how you present yourself and how you look. One thing that I've learned from marketing is that it could be a rubbish product. It could be a product that's not actually worth that much, but if you package it really, really, really well, you could sell it for a lot of money. And that's because people place a value on a thing based on how it's presented. And so I feel like if you value yourself, see yourself as valuable, you should present yourself as valuable. Make sure you smell good, make sure your teeth are clean, make sure you feel confident in what you're wearing and how you look. Even if you're not happy with the state of your body right now, that doesn't mean that you can't dress it up and dress for how you are right now and look as presentable and as good as you possibly can. So where you need to maybe make some investments, that could be in hair, that could be in some makeup products. And I'm not saying that you have to necessarily have like weave and like a face full of makeup, you don't, but still you take care of yourself. So if that means like taking care of your skin, making sure your natural hair is nice, all of that works into how you present yourself and how people take you as well. One thing that I always tell myself is to try and do things that help me to look beautiful without a lot of effort. So that means working on my skin, having my nails done, making sure I have jewelry on, making sure I smell nice. Like those things are low effort. So, if you're not a high glam person, but you still want to look good, you can do things that are low effort to make sure you still look good. And the third thing there with the physical is to learn how to control your body. Don't undereat, don't overeat. A great practice to implement is fasting, because it's a way to deny your flesh. Implement that at least once a week or a couple of times a month, just as a regular occurrence, as a way to bring your body into submission. And then there is your soul. So your soul is made up of your emotion, your will or willpower, and your intellect. And one thing that I've learned is that your soul should never override what God is telling you to do or override any godly principle from the Bible. So you will realize that your soul will try to do this, like your intellect, you will try to reason things, you will try to put logic into things. And there's some parts of God where it's just like, no, it's not logical, like it just is. So yeah, like improve yourself intellectually, upskill where you can, learn everything you can learn, read books, but don't try to always use intellect with God. Like I feel like there's always a balance that needs to be struck. You will realize that your emotions as well will try to control you. Your emotions will go up and down, and they, you know, someone once said this, that your emotions will betray you. You're feeling completely angry one minute, and so you do something in the heat of the moment because you're angry, and then when the next day when everything's like settled down, you're like, why did I do that? That was such a stupid decision. So another way to work on your soul is to actually learn how to control your emotions. And I feel like when you work on your spirit, of course, like when you, through prayer and reading the word, these things will have an effect. But sometimes there's other things that you may need to kind of support that work with by, for example, going to therapy. Journaling, which is one of the things that I really want to get into this year, which is just journaling and penning down your thoughts. I think it really helps with clarity. I think sometimes when you start writing, there's certain things that will come out that you didn't even realize were there, and then you can then work on. And then your willpower is really important to actually submit that to God, because your will is not necessarily the same as God's will just because you're a Christian. You have to learn daily to die to yourself and actually submit your will to God's will. And I think just knowing that alone is powerful, because you're just always aware of the fact that, okay, I need to double check if this is God's will, because I know that there are some times where my will can be different to the Lord's. Then meditation. Meditation is a really key part of kind of soul work. I was watching a video the other day that was talking about the fact that solitude is a really key part of life if you want to be close to God. If you're distracted and there's a lot of noise all the time, or you're always watching something, you're always doing something, you never have time for God to actually download ideas into your head or to speak to you in that still small voice. So meditate. When you do your quiet time, take time out to actually just meditate and be still before the Lord. And that does a lot of help for your soul as well. And step 3 is to literally just do it. So everything that we've spoken about in step 2, and we've broken it down into 3 sections, and I've given you various examples of how you can improve and what you can do. The important part is to actually do it, because if it just stays in your notepad, you don't change. Like I said at the beginning, the new you, the reinvented you, is on the other side of discipline. It's on the other side of doing what you said you're going to do. And a reinvention comes by way of intention. You have to be intentional. And so the best way to do this is to work backwards and actually, you know, you've already set out, you know, who this woman is, what she does, how she does it. Now let's break it down into monthly. What are you going to do monthly? Maybe you're going to get a facial every month because your skin is really bad. Maybe you're going to start going to therapy every week because you feel like your soul's in a really messed up place and trauma's kind of haunting you and things like that. Maybe you need to start having your quiet time every morning if you never used to do that before. You need to schedule that in and say, I'm going to do that at 7 a.m. every morning. You need to actually put these things into your calendar, into a to-do list, and make them habits. These things don't happen overnight, they don't become second nature overnight. You need to be intentional and you need to actually do it. You can ask friends to hold you accountable, but we also have an accountability group. I'm gonna put a link to that in the description box below. Basically, we just hold women accountable for the various goals that they may have. So if you feel like, I want to reinvent myself this year, I want to become a better version of me, make sure you click the link in the bio and join a group of amazing women just like you, and we'll help hold you accountable. And my final words are, remember, it's a marathon and not a sprint. You're not going to change overnight. Give yourself grace, but just make sure you start. Thank you for watching. I hope that was helpful, and make sure you subscribe, like, and I'll see you in the next video.